Hello dear students, let's today understand Robert Frost's poem Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. It is prescribed in the BSc 1 syllabus of Shivaji University in Module 5 Part C. Robert Lee Frost is America's one of the most famous poet, and there is something in his poetry which is made up of everyday speech. There is farm life and plain folk wisdom that makes his poetry known to everyone. On the surface, his poetry appears to be simple, but if you closely inspect the poems, even this poem, you will find that the poet is revealing the inner life of man. Robert Frost's poems are very famous. Some of them I have listed here. The Gift Outright, Acquainted with the Night, Home Burial, Out, Out, Fire and Ice, Birches, Nothing Cold Can Stay, Mending Wall, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, and The Road Not Taken are some of his best known poems. Let's understand the present poem. This poem was published in 1923. It was written to capture the conflict between man and nature, and also to highlight the difference between man's wishes and his obligations we often face in our lives. However, this poem has become one of the most popular poems in English literature. Let's read stanza by stanza the whole poem. The poem begins with the line, "Whose woods these are, I think, I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow." The narrator of the poem has stopped by for a brief moment amid a snow evening in the woods, transfixed by the mesmerizing scenes unfolding before his eyes. As he takes a moment to indulge in the dosage of naturalistic beauty, he is torn between staying in the woods and the heading home. In the next stanza, his companion, his little horse, reminds him something. Therefore, he says, "My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and the frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year." He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the weep of easy wind and the downy flake. As he takes a moment to indulge in the naturalistic beauty, he is torn between staying in the woods and heading home. As reader explores in the poem, the motivations and the hidden inclinations, the poem gets more and more intriguing, and a clever play on words readers renders a diverse meaning. Robert Frost has penchant for selecting two roads, as was his case in of his earlier poem, The Road Not Taken, where the narrator again arrives at the crossroads, deciding his permanent path. So here also the same conflict arises in his mind to stop, to stay, or to go ahead. In the last stanza, he clears all his conflict. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. So here he decides not to stop and get mesmerized, get stuck by the beauty, naturalistic beauty, because he remembers that he has made promises, he has obligations, he has commitment to keep, and he must go ahead. That is why he says he has to go miles before I sleep. I sleep here symbolically means I may date. So sleep here is the dead. So the crux of the poem lies in the conflict, in a moment of solace versus the pending obligations. The obligations are not completed. The narrator is spellbound by the momentary distraction from worldly responsibilities, and he allows himself a moment's peace. Being a naturalistic to the core, Robert Frost grounds his character in a forest, mesmerized by the snowy evening. The poet, mildly mesmerized by the snowy evening, the poet indicates the presence of a human close by, and there are obligations to form, to commit. The woods for the narrator are immensely thick and dark. Therefore, in the last stanza, he says, the woods are lovely, dark and deep, and they stand in their all glory. The poet paints an image etched in natural beauty, drawing deep sensory emotions from the reader. The scene is created in front of the reader. The woods are blanketed in thick snow, amplifying its beauty factor. The narrator's voice is concerned about the losing his way if he gets once lost in the beauty through the winds, and it gets immensely dark at night time. He decides to better get a move on. As it is known that Robert Frost poems go from simplicity to wisdom. In these lines also, there is a message that you should not stop in your life by the mesmerizing beauties and hardships, because you have dreams in your mind, you have commitment made in your life. You should follow the path, not to stay back. Thank you very much.